Chapter 22. Marlena and I spend the rest of the afternoon together focusing on the present. I could sense talking about the past drained her, and admittedly, Gavin was right with what he said about me. There's only so much I can handle at once. I still have a multitude of questions to ask, but I can't process anything more right now. I don't share my thought out loud about wanting to save Impetus. I need to ponder it more. I have a great time with Marlena, and laugh so much and often that my ribs ache. It's such a great feeling, and I don't want it to stop. Laughing has always been a simple response before, a reaction to what people say. Now it's tied in with side-clutching joy, and I'm addicted to it. Later in the afternoon, Gavin joins us.
Looks like I wasn't missed today, huh?
Marlena and I look up from the scraps of fabric we are assembling to make doors for more huts in rebirth. We were in the middle of giggling at our awful choices of color combinations when Gavin walked in. I like that I haven't thought about him since my conversation with Marlena earlier in the morning. I've spent most of my life with Gavin on my mind, so I've discovered that when I'm distracted by other thoughts, I feel free. "Oh, you're always missed," Marlena says with a flirty grin. And just like that, the image of her and Gavin together slices through my enjoyment of the day.
That's more like it,
he responds, winking at her.
Do you care if I steal Evie for a bit?
Marlena gives a wave of her hand. She's all yours. For a moment, I think I detect a slight undertone of bitterness, but her smile otherwise shows no revelation of such a feeling.
You up for a walk?
Gavin asks, offering his hand to help me stand. I am exhausted from all the activity today, but since none of it has been with Gavin, I respond, "Sure." I take his hand as he pulls me to my feet and puts his arm around my waist to support me. I wave to Marlena and say, "I'll see you later." "Yes, definitely." As we walk away from Marlena, I glance over my shoulder. She's watching us with a faraway look in her eyes. Her lips are turned downward until she notices I'm looking at her, and a smile covers whatever was previously weighing on her mind.
"So today was a good day?"
Gavin asks. "Yes, much better. Plus, you may notice I smell like a normal human again." He snorts.
I wasn't going to say anything, but yeah, it's much easier to be around you now. Why do you think I ran off all day?
"Ha! Never knew you were such a comedian," I say mockingly. "But seriously, where have you been? I hope you weren't waiting around for me in our spot all day."
Marlena is a bad influence on your sarcasm, huh?
It's obvious he's avoiding my question, as usual. "I like her," I admit quietly.
Yeah, I knew you two would get along. I didn't expect such an instant connection, but I'm glad to see it. It'll help you get settled in better.
Ever since I realized Gavin might have a pairing in his community, I had assumed it was an assigned one. But now I know Marlena is more than a forced match, which deepens the jealousy and confusing pain. I tilt my chin higher and straighten my back to summon the courage to find out more. "How long ago did you choose her?"
What do you mean?
He asks innocently, sending instant exasperation in my nerves that makes me groan. "You know what I mean. How long have you been paired with her?" My tone signifies my patience is wearing thin. Gavin stops walking, releases his arm around my waist, and turns, reaching out from my arms.
Evie, I don't understand. Marlena isn't my pairing.
"But we talked before about you having a pairing back in your community, and the way you and Marlena interact. And I've seen her place and saw the big grassy bed area, and I thought that's where you guys sleep, because she doesn't have a cot, and that could only hold one person comfortably anyway." I'm rambling, struggling to communicate the evidence I pieced together to form a picture of his life here. Gavin stays quiet for a moment, his eyes widening as each word I've said clicks.
Evie,
he finally says.
Let's sit for a moment."
Since there aren't any logs like we're used to, he walks me to a patch of soft grass. After lowering me to the ground, he sits in front of me, our knees barely touching.
That last visit of ours before the futures ceremony was rough. I had a lot on my mind, and you ran off before I could explain any of it.
My remedy monitor. I begin to offer an excuse, but no, it's not worth it. Truthfully, I didn't want to hear anything else you had to say about it. About her, I guess. The thought of you having a pairing changed my idea of you. I didn't know how to handle it.
Well, if you stuck around, you would have heard me say I don't have a pairing. As you now know about rebirth, we're a little freer here, built on individual choices and freedom. There's no such thing as forced pairings. So Marlena definitely isn't my pairing. We're not anything other than friends. Simple friends.
I breathe a sigh of relief that could blow the leaves of the trees around us. They aren't together. Gavin doesn't have a pairing. I don't have to share him with anyone else.
And that bed of hers? She gave up her cot for you. You're sleeping on her cot right now until we can get another one. That's why she has a makeshift bed in her hut. That's all it is.
My relief melts to guilt. Marlena truly is just a good person who has sacrificed her comfort to help me feel more restful in rebirth. I cover my face with my hands and confess, I've been idiotic. I need to apologize to Marlena. I've had awful thoughts about her.
I doubted she even noticed, Evie. You guys were having a great time today. Besides, what bad thoughts? You told me you liked her.
How do I even start? I've just felt really jealous. Gavin raises an eyebrow and the corner of his lips curl into a small smile.
Oh, yeah?
She's perfect. Beautiful, funny, can carve wood better than any man I've seen. It makes sense that if you had a pairing, it would be someone exactly like her.
I gotta say, Evie.
He taps my nose with his finger, so I look up at him again.
I'm surprised you would even care.
Fervor flushes my cheeks. I'm sure they look as on fire as they feel. But instead of hiding, I want to curl into his chest and stop talking. Just listen to his heartbeat and feel his arms around me. Gavin's blue eyes are intently drawing me in, as though inhaling a scent. I had been wrong to assume he had a pairing and then run off before he could explain. Then I'm sure I kept him waiting for me the days that the other events occurred. The strange events. Gavin! I sit up quickly, startling him. I had so much I wanted to tell you before the ceremony. I tried to get back to you, but couldn't. Thwarted by the change of topic, he shrugs.
It probably worked to your advantage, because that's partly how I caught wind that something was wrong with you.
No, I mean not the days I was in the box. Before the ceremony. After we had our last visit, things got really strange in Impetus.
Strange how?
His casualness about it is disappointing. When I came back through the thickets after seeing you, I heard two men talking I've never heard before, and they were... I trail off as their conversation repeats in my mind. The men were trying to identify someone outside the walls, questioning whether that person would come back, offering to take care of him because he's a threat. Marlena's story about Gavin runs alongside as my mind forms the connections. It was Gavin. They were talking about Gavin. I put my hand on his knee and lean forward, whispering as though Impetus officials could hear us. Gavin, would Impetus know about you? Would they see you as a threat? I hesitate to tell him that Marlena already informed me he is the Lightstone's legend. I need Gavin to tell me himself, to entrust me with more of him since he knows everything about me. Gavin clenches his jaw and flexes his hand.
Possibly,
he says slowly.
Tell me exactly what you heard, Evie.
I fill him in, word for word, on what I can remember, including running into one of the same men the very next night. I describe how he was dressed in all gray and how he looked guilty of blocking something that was occurring in the thickets behind him. A shudder grabs me as I recall his gray eyes drifting up and down my body. He kept looking at me in such an eerie way and didn't stop watching me even after I walked away.
Evie, I need you to really think about this before you answer.
Gavin intensely leans in.
Do you think he knew you were trying to sneak out? Do you think he had any idea whatsoever?
My first thought is there's no way he could know. But if he had been hanging around that shed lately, there's a chance. I convulse at the thought of the man. With emotions connecting my memories of these scenes, I didn't realize just how creepy he was until now. I think I played it off well enough, I finally conclude. I took Jacqueline's shift that night, so I stayed at the clinic for hours afterward. He would have believed my lie that I had to work. And then I met Liam that night, which made it all worth it. But I keep that last part to myself.
Okay. Good.
Gavin isn't convinced. I'm not sure I am either. I can see in his eyes he knows something else he's not telling me. Frustration boils inside. Gavin has kept too many things from me already. Important secrets and truths that are just now being revealed. He said he regretted not telling me more, but yet here's his chance to unleash it and he's still holding back. I'm presenting him with the perfect opportunity to tell me his true story, to tell me something he should have said first, not Marlena. But he still doesn't say, hey, by the way, I was actually born in Impetus, let's talk about that. I clench my fists as my fingertips pinch my skin. Why did you wait so long to rescue me, Gavin? It comes out in a half scream, half plea for him to tell me something of complete honesty. The recent revelations of how my life once was and the lives of all those I care about are breaking me. Sobs threaten to push through my throat. I gulp for air to suffocate them.
I came as soon as I knew they had you.
I shake my head and force the words out before my composure slips away. Not from the box. From them. From Impetus. Years ago. You should have saved me years ago. At first, bewilderment crosses Gavin's face, followed by a streak of anger which is quickly washed away by compassion, mixed with something else I can't quite decode. His arms tighten around me, and I'm pushing my head so far into his chest as though I no longer want to be in my body. Gavin runs his hand through my hair and softly murmurs, "Shh." When my crying stops and only sniffling remains, I barely catch Gavin's words. I ask.
Marlena told you.
He repeats, his disappointment noticeable.
I was going to, Evie, when the time was right.
The time was right the day I first met you. You wasted all these years playing stupid games. You wanted me to feel, and I could have earlier if you... I'm trembling now. The tears are flowing like waterfalls down my cheeks. I don't bother wiping them away.
You should have told me the truth. You could have saved me years ago.
Gavin takes a deep breath and pops his knuckles. The sound makes me wince, and I wonder if it hurts.
I know it's hard for you to understand right now, but I was saving you. All along, I was saving you.
He pulls himself away from me, stands up and paces back and forth.
From the moment I met you, I could tell you were different. You were like me. I don't think you ever realized you were feeling more than everyone else, even despite the remedy. The things you would say. You'd blame it on thoughts and logic, but Evie, you were feeling things. You're all heart.
What about... I try to interrupt, but Gavin continues, his steps connecting with the ground harder, spraying dirt with each loud thud.
I knew how bad it would hurt if you suddenly felt everything at once. I went through it. I didn't want that for you. I couldn't stand the thought of you in pain. I convinced myself that if I continued to work with you over the years, I could make you see things, make you see how different you are, and how wrong the ways of Impetus are. I thought I could do it in an easier way. I thought I was protecting you.
He drops his head as his voice cracks.
But I failed. Your dreams. That's your intuition, Evie. It's strong. Maybe a little misguided with remedy blocking your feelings all these years, but you have it. I noticed it in you when you were little, and it's only grown since. My head is pounding. Gray spots filter into the side of my eyes. 18 years of blindly walking through a life that was all an illusion. That's the term Liam used, and it couldn't be more fitting. More information has been revealed, but most of it just leads to more questions. Everything is layered and complex. Gavin should be the one giving me answers, yet he is the one confusing me the most. I was about to get paired, Gavin. You almost let that happen. If you wanted to save me, why did you let me get so close to that point? If I didn't fight it, we wouldn't be here. I'd be in the paired housing with Brennan doing who knows what role and trying to produce a baby I could only hope Impetus wouldn't kill. You're wrong. If I knew you were getting paired, I would have saved you a lot earlier. I knew I would have lost you, and that... He stops pacing long enough to look me straight in the eyes. Will never happen. I will never lose you, Evangeline. The air thickens, his chest quickly rises and falls. His eyes drop to my mouth before he continues treading the singular path that is severely paying for whatever he's feeling as the grass is kicked and pummeled by his heavy steps. You weren't supposed to get paired. I don't know what happened. You were supposed to be one of the unpaired. I thought that may be the safest place for you until I could get rebirth more settled. You would have been off their radar more. I thought I still had time. So I was right. The doctor and the man in gray were talking about me. Gavin confirmed I would have been one of the unpaired, but they changed that last minute to cover a mistake they made. They were going to change my declared future without a care. Of course they don't care, I remind myself. These are the same people that threw me in a box to rot. Gavin crouches down in front of me. You. He reaches out to wipe the tears from both of my cheeks with his thumbs. You have been my focus for the past 12 years. I would have done anything in this world to protect you, and I will fight every single day to keep you safe. You are my best friend. You are... He doesn't finish his sentence, and for a moment, as he's looking into my eyes, holding my face and tilting his in closer, I wonder if he will kiss me. On the lips. And now I'm not only wondering, but desiring it. I want to taste his lips on mine as a different heat rises through my chest and down my body. My heart pounds as the anticipation grows greater, and I watch the distance between us shrink, one tiny millimeter after another, in slow motion. When I think he's about to do it, he lifts his lips and pushes them against my forehead. They linger there for a while. The fire that moved through my body now turns to tingles. The universe is circling around us, leaving us suspended in time. When he finally pulls away, I want to pull him back in and tell him to do it again, but to not stop, and this time, to make sure he covers my lips. Instead, I stay quiet, watching his eyes carefully. Gavin stands up and extends a hand for me to grab. We should eat something and get you back to the cot. You've pushed it enough today, and you need to rest. I stare at him with my mouth agape. How can he change so quickly? One moment he is finally sharing things with me, and the next he's ordering me around again. If I weren't so exhausted, I'd fight it. But with my headache growing in intensity, I'm ready to sleep. Reluctantly, I grab his hand so he can pull me up. Within seconds, we are walking together again, with him as my support. I can't help but wonder if I said or did something wrong. Nothing I analyze gives credit to any reason to not kiss me in such an intimate moment. It's only the other side of Gavin,
and there's no telling how long I'll have to wait to get a moment like that again. Sometimes when Gavin and I step on rocks in the path that cause us to stumble, his hand on my waist will automatically squeeze tighter as a reaction to hold on and keep me safe. Every time that happens, hope rises inside that maybe he'll stop, turn me around, and kiss me deeply, powerfully. But it's just a fantasy that never occurs.